Hello and welcome to another edition of Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Vanelli. Now, normally joining me today for a weekly wrap-up is my co-host, Angela Andrieux, which she has off. So, the topics that we're going to cover today are adding something visual to a sky to make it very interesting. So we already know how to replace skies. We already know how to add like an augmented sky to it to do different things to make the sky bring on different characteristics. Now what we want to do is maybe add a cloud or something different to a sky that just makes it look much better. And then we're going to work on creating an urban grunge effect, and then we'll add a digital border to a print. So we have a lot to cover, especially without my co-host, Angela. So let's dive right in. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. All right. So here's Luminar. Now, the first one we're going to do is that sky. So let's jump right over to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one right here. Now, of course, let's give it a second to render. I added birds originally to this, slimmed her body, and did a few things to it. So what I want to do is I want to erase all of that, and we're going to start from the beginning. Give it a second. Hello, Julie. Good to see you. Almost there. And by the way, Julie, I almost messaged you on Facebook to see if you wanted to be a guest today, since Angela's not here. Hello, Jim from Ohio, and of course, Pat, and bonjour, our buddy in France. All right, let's take an unusual time. One moment. There we go. Oh, that's why. Look how much I did to this image. All right, let's start from the original. And we'll start from the top. All right, now, one of the best parts about Luminar is we don't have to go in a set order. I don't have to crop first, then add stuff afterwards. I can start wherever I want. For now, because I want to show you how to add something different to the sky, we'll start there first, then we'll go back and process it. But just remember one thing, anything we start with, if we try to use a template after that, it'll erase everything we just did, which makes sense. So why don't we start just for now with that template? I'm going to make a simple one. Clean light. All right, so that just gave me a base. Now I can start my changes. I'm going to come over to Augmented Sky. Now, this time, and I know we're not used to doing this. I know we're not used to adding a cloud to a cloudless sky, but I'm going to show you why I'm doing this. I like this image overall. The sky is beautiful. It's plain. So let me add a sky to it, or a cloud. Now, we have to be careful, and they brought this to my attention the last time I did this. Does that cloud really match the clouds that are in the scene? I don't think so. So let me go to another one real quick. Hello, Russell. Good to see you too. All right, let's go with this one. And the difference is, I'm going to make this really large. And now I'm going to bring it right down behind her. So now look what I just did. Now, do you see how, there we go. Now, do you see how I made it kind of blend with the existing cloud? There it goes. So now it's adding something a little bit more interesting. Especially if I bring out just a little bit more. And drop it back down just a little. Look at that. So I kept wondering where the engineers, where they were coming from on this. on adding clouds. Birds I understand, the moon, space shuttle, I'm still not there yet with the space shuttle, but I understand why they added some of those things to it. The clouds, I wasn't quite certain, but I like this. I like how, and I'm glad they're pushing me to do it. I would probably crop it right about to there. Yeah, right there would be a good looking crop, because now it just looks like, oh, here it is, before and after. Look at that. Now it just looks really cool. It looks like she's up on a mountaintop, dancing, having a great time. Boom, and there's that big, beautiful cloud that we just happened to frame her with. So this I could definitely live with. And I really like what they did with that. So now from this point on, I normally would finish off the edit, but this was what I wanted to show you. And since this is a wrap up, if you wanted to see what I did with it, if you wanted to see what I actually did to the rest of this with the body shaping and different textures, effects I added to the rocks, you could check out the earlier week. In the earlier week, we did all that. All right, so that's one down. Now, sparkles to eyes. So, and just so you guys know, this is where I miss Angela, because typically with Angela, we bounce back and forth, and it gives the other person a chance to get stuff ready. I was using Ashley before, so let me come back up here. If not, I may end up wanting to use, yeah, I'll use Ashley again. It's this one right here. Give it a second to refresh. And by the way, if you start to notice this happening quite a bit, you can always go into your catalog. I can't do it now because we're live. You can go into your Luminar catalog and erase all of the screen captures that it did and start over again. And just let it regenerate all of these. But since we're opening them, closing them on so much, Luminar is trying to keep track of all those changes we made to this, and that's why it's taking forever here. But that, again, is it done? Yep. I'm going to edit. There we go. It'll give it a second. But yeah, but if you go to your Luminar menu, and let's see if I'm able to do it while it's running. Yeah. File, Catalog, Show and Explorer. So while that's doing that, I'll show you this part. I would go into here and see these preview caches and the cache documents. Leave backups alone. Don't ever mess with backup, and never mess with your Luminar catalog. But these preview caches here, I can erase or rename them, and then the next time I launch Luminar, it'll actually go back and regenerate all those for me. So that was just a little extra. Look at this. Look at those eyes. Before, after. One more time. Before and after. So let's go to history. Let's see where I did all of this. Oh, here's Face AI. Face AI. Okay, I'm going to stick to this one. I'll put it right down here. There we go. All right, so this is what we started with. All right. Then I created a template called Romantic Mystery. Now, when I click on Romantic Mystery, not only does it, well, I'll show you. Look at this. So here's the original image. Get out of the way. And we've talked about this before. This was a throwaway shot. A shot that I didn't want to keep. But look at this now. Once I add that little mystery in there, delete this pinky. Now this image is shaping up to where I really, really like it. So let's go further with the eyes. Now, remember, that was one. Look how fast we edited that. It's done. So we can move on to the next one. If you love editing, if you really enjoy it, or if, let's say, this was an image that you know you're going to put, large somewhere or in a magazine, now we're going to take a few extra minutes just to give it that finishing touch to make it perfect. So I like your eyes. So let's come over here to the portrait tools. And this is what her eyes look like before and after the portrait. So let me show you what I did. Under eyes, here's her original, which she still has beautiful eyes. I'm going to come in here. Maybe we want to give her blue eyes, brown eyes. Brown eyes is better. Or I could change them up, maybe green eyes. All right? So we could change up the eyes, and then the iris visibility dictates how much of that is shown through. So I'm going to go back to the brown eyes and bring it back a little bit. Now, this lens flare is absolutely incredible. If I wanted to, well, if you notice, it was a single light, because you see the light source in her eyes right here. So it was a feathered light coming across the scene. Down in here is where I would have had a reflector, and the reflector would have bounced light back up into her eye. So if here's the main light coming across, here's that reflector down here, that's called cross lighting. That's going to bounce up into her face, and it's going to give us this. Do you see it? I'm going to go to an extreme. Right here. Look at that. All right? So do you see that flare right in here? Look at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it just a little bit of flare, not a whole lot, because what I want to do is kind of add that flare to it. All right? So with that being said, I like where I'm at here. I'm going to come down. Either I could do dodge and burn, which I think I'll start with first. Darken. And I'm going to adjust the size of the brush. I'm using the left and right bracket keys. Now from here, I'm going to give her eyeliner. I originally called this mascara, and thankfully some of you had a little chat with me afterwards. So I'm going to give her eyeliner right in here. There's two ways of doing it. One way is I'm going to go to full strength so I can see what I'm doing and then back it off. And to make my life easier, I'm using a pen on my screen. You can still use a mouse, but it's a little bit harder. So I'm going to come in and bring it there. Good. And bring it in there. Now, that looks horrible, but that's where we're adding that eyeliner. Now we're going to take that eyeliner back a bit, and the strength, I'm going to bring it down. Good. Oh, I'm sorry. Notice the strength doesn't do anything because I've already painted. It's the amount that's going to make the change. So I'm going to bring the amount down, and look what that's doing for me. It's right here. Yes, for any of you that know Florida, realize that we get downpours every so often. So yes, you're hearing a downpour with rain. Good. Have it here. There it is. So before and after. Awesome. There. All right, so I have that set. Now, while I'm here, I want to expand some of the eyelashes. Now, originally, by doing this at 100% strength and then lower the amount, the issue I'm going to run into is when I dial in these lashes like this, look at this, they may not be as powerful, or they may be too dark, right? So the better way of doing this in the beginning would have been independently giving them each the strength, adjust the strength as I painted it. since I didn't do that, which is fine, I'm going to use the erase part, the erase tool here, and I'm going to use that to take away some of the stuff I just did. So in essence, I'm painting, look at that. I'm just giving it just a little touch. There we go. It doesn't look like a lot, but watch that. Look at that. Do you see that? So it's making the eyelashes look fuller. And when you zoom out, right about here, now I'll do before and after. Before, after. Look at the difference that it causes that. Now, honestly, if I had to do an entire photo shoot with a model and her eyelashes were not as full as they could be, that's when you would put false eyelashes on. So I don't have to go in and do all these edits. Doing 1 or 2 of these, I have no problem with. But if I had to do this for 30 or 40 of them, that's way too much time. Go in, make sure it's done correctly in camera. But here, I actually love how it looks on Ashley. All right? And one last thing I want to do to the eyes to make them really sparkle is I'm going to come up here to the local mask. I'm going to add the basic tool. And remember, I'm just looking at the eyes right now. All right? 2 things I want to do. 1, I want to add some highlights, bring out the shadows, and I really want to bump up, I'm looking just at the eyes, I want to bump up some of the vibrancy, maybe a little bit of the saturation. Good. So everything looks horrible except her eye. So now I'm going to come in and paint at 100% opacity. And I'm going to come in and do that half crescent shape. There we go. Before, after. Ooh, did you see that? Look at that. Before, after. Awesome. And if the strength is too much, I'm going to come down here to the opacity. And actually, no, the opacity is for the brushes. Where is it? I'll come back. Nope, I'd have to change it over here. I thought I could change it here, but once we set that opacity at 100%, I'd have to use the erase tool if I wanted to go back and mellow that out a little bit. But overall, I like it. Maybe add a little structure to it too. There we go. And let's back off a little bit. And there we have it. Now, I think it's just a little too much. Let me double check to make sure. And yep, it is just a little too much. So let's grab erase. Maybe bring the opacity down a bit. 1 second. And then from here, I would go in and I would erase part of that to get it to where the way I like it. All right. Let me grab a quick question here. Could you please recommend a good mouse and a pen, or what features to look for? Okay, good. When using a Windows laptop. That's a good question. And with that, Wacom makes a really good drawing tablet. This is a Microsoft Surface Pro, so I could draw right on it. But you have to, can you justify spending like $5,000 on something like this? Or would you rather spend maybe $100 or $200 on that tablet? The difference is the tablet, you're looking at the screen as you're drawing here. At first, it feels really weird. My suggestion is you put your mouse away for a week and just use your pen to open up menus, click on things, and after a while, this pen becomes an extension of what you're doing, and you're going to absolutely love it from there. But Wacom makes a good one, and there's several other ones on the market right now that have made huge changes that have developed. I would suggest doing something from Amazon or B&H Photo that has a money-back guarantee. So you try it. If it doesn't work for you, you can send it back. All right? But these here, I'm noticing, since I've been working with Luminar, I don't use that nearly enough that I used to use, because everything we're doing in Luminar is slider-based, to where the AI is helping me do what normally would take me a long time to brush in each one of these here. And by doing that, I don't have to, if I don't brush in, I can actually add that to all my images, excuse me, all the images, to where I can batch process and get through my edits much faster. All right? So, thank you, Gord, for asking that question. Any other questions coming up? Good, yes. So, Julie said about the clouds that we did earlier, can we change the opacity of the clouds to fit in the sort? Yes, we can. And so what's really cool about that with the clouds is that you can also make it relight the scene so it matches the scene and everything looks like it was meant to be there the entire time. All right? So we have that set. Now I'm going to come over here to Instant Styles. One of my absolute favorite photos. Ready? I love, 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 love this shot. Again, I'm going to come in here. Let's give it a maybe brush up. Good. I'm going to go, yeah, I'm going to go brush up. That's fine. Give it a second to render. And now once I get it, it's almost there. There we go. I'll come over to edit. Now this is where that texture has been doing phenomenal. The local masking tool, where texture has really been helping us on getting the extra looks, and that's because the engineers have made it to where we can actually load PNG files. All right. Now I've showed you this little trick before. Under my photography folder, I have what's called underscore assets. Under the underscore assets, I'm going to come under here and look for textures. And I have an entire selection that I can pick. I'm going to come over here and grab this one right here. Now these textures, a lot of them were downloaded free, for royal free. Some of them were given to us through Skylum. If you go to the marketplace, Rich Harrington put a lot of textures, and he and his daughter spent a weekend tearing up paper and making really cool paper textures. You can check it out on the Skylum.com under Marketplace. I'm going to use this image, this one right here first. Now it's going to overlay, and I can dictate how much of that, here it is, I want it to overlay. That can be 100%. Dial it back. Here's what's going to help us, the blend mode. So when I click on the advanced settings, under the blend mode, I can change the blend mode to where it starts to take on the characteristic of the image. Ooh, look right there, perfect. I'll take this shot here. I love how the color's adding to it, but I'm going to dial it back just a little bit. Right about there. Here it is before. After, look at that. I just love, how fast we can actually do real quick style changes like this. Now I can come over and change the brightness of that actual texture. Contrast. If you don't want if you want it to be just gray, you can bring down the saturation, or you can bump it up all the more. But for now, I'm going to leave it right about here. Now, keep in mind, our goal is for you never to have to go into the advanced section. And because here, when you saw me, when I first put it on, just changing the opacity made it look great. This gave us that extra boost to make it look even better. All right, so I have one texture on there. Now let's add that digital frame. What's neat about, I said this in the very beginning with Luminar, is that we're able to add and go in any order we want. I could crop first, do all my changes, do whatever I want. The only exceptions we talked about was templates, to where it's best if you're going to apply a template, apply the template first, then make all your changes. Otherwise, if you make all your changes and you're like, I'm stuck, it just doesn't look as good as I want it to look, and then you apply a template, it'll erase all the stuff you've already done. So templates, you do start in an order, and this tool is the second one. Because I have the texture laid down first, the next frame I add is to be laid on top of it. So here's the frame. So the frame is laid on top. I'm going to place it and resize it. And here we go. Now you can make the decision on your own. Do I want more of a border? Do I want the frame to have that little see-through coming around here? And actually, I missed a little spot down here. Let me pull this down a little bit further. Good. Remember, pulling from the corners is proportional. See that? Pulling from the middle ends here, you end up stretching it. All right, that looks good. So here's the opacity. I can make the border itself look completely black, or I could dial it back just a little bit, right there, so you can see some of the image coming through. And once again, if you want to explore some of the advanced options, I'm not going to mess with the blend modes. I mean, I could come in and start changing them, but I'm going to leave it as normal. And then I can either make it brighter or I can make it darker. That's up to you. And there we have it. So there, let me get my face out of there. So there we have, I ended up getting a beautiful frame into this here. And one last thing before I go any further, Julie is saying, oh, hey, for Windows 4, by the way, for Luminar 4, check to see if you got the new update. So they just announced a new update. Check to make sure. Go to File, Help, check for updates. So check that and let me know if it's working better for you. All right, for Julie, every time you want a new texture, you have to add another local mask. Do you have another mask is the same as adding layers like in other programs? So we're not going to say layers because it's like Kleenex versus tissues. We know it's the same. Kleenex and tissues, you're like, oh, it's the same thing. Or if I said, hey, I have a headache, do you have any aspirin? No, I don't have aspirin, but I have Tylenol. Now, it's true, it's not the same thing. And if I'm allergic to aspirin, I'm in big trouble. Or if I'm allergic to Tylenol, I'm in big trouble, so I take aspirin. Layers with Luminar 4 allows you to add multiple stuff on top of each other. But the problem there was when you saved it as a new look, you couldn't save the entire effect. You had to save each and every different layer. And whatever was on that layer, it would be saved into the look. So the engineers decided, okay, well, here we are with the local masking. And what you're doing is you're stacking or overlaying on top of each other. So I'm going to add another overlay just to show you. or another texture rather. And this you'll like. Oh, I did basic. Let me do texture. Load. Let's put our signature on there. So everyone has been asking for like a watermark. This, I feel, is something temporary because I can't wait for us to actually incorporate watermarks into our image. But right now, this is what we have. So if I want to add my signature or my logo or watermark, I can add it right here. Change the opacity to 100%. Lock it into place. There we go. And of course I can move it again if I need to. There it is. Now, good. So you're laying it on top of the original image is what she asked. Yes. Good, good. I'm glad. You know what I love about all this? I love how you start to see something and the wheels start to turn. Oh, now it makes sense. Notice I put the watermark last because if I have the original image here, the cool texture on top of it, now the frame on top of the texture, so the texture is not going to affect the frame. Now the watermark or logo is last. That texture and all the other stuff I just applied to it won't affect that watermark. If I put the watermark on first and then start laying everything on top of it, the watermark will take on the characteristics of the texture. All right? Awesome. Great. Well, guys, there you have it. I can't wait for Angela to be back next week. We have an entire new content for you guys starting Monday all the way through. And she has some really cool techniques she wants to show you. And I have a few things in there. If you want to see what we're doing, make sure you hit the notification bell on the bottom of this. And for what it'll do is it'll tell you when we're up next. And it also shows you what our next topics are going to be. And if you have questions, please pop them in the chat. Or if you have suggestions for future shows, make sure you add those there too. And that's where we get the ideas to add the new shows. All right? Well, guys, Easter is coming up Sunday, so all of you have a great and awesome holiday, and please be safe. Well, I'll see you guys at the next coffee break.